Hi, I'm Goddess, and I am 29 years old. I wanted to make this video mostly for myself, but also just sharing my perspective of what I feel like your 20s are for. I'm going to be 30, I'm going to be 30 in September. For me in particularly, I feel like I've gone through so much in my 20s, and some people will sit here and feel like your 20s is like the worst time of your life or the best time of your life because, you know, with social media, I guess in certain ways can like make you believe what your 20s are supposed to portray. And specifically when I recently was looking up videos on coming to an end of your 20s, there was a lot of videos that came up that kind of just like rubbed me the wrong way in the sense of it really was like my 20s was a fail. But I get it, like people are trying to create something to get people to click on the video, but this is what I truly believe your 20s are for. Your 20s are for trial and error. You're supposed to fail in your 20s. And I will admit that I had a lot of success during my 20s. Towards the end of my 20s, I feel like I failed in a lot of ways, but a lot of it has had its ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, and the 20s are for trial and error. And I really want to share that for anyone that is in their early 20s or in their mid 20s or even coming towards the end of an era or a decade for yourself, you know what I mean? Where you're coming towards the end of your 20s and you're going into your 30s. Like, your 20s are supposed to be about failure, failed relationships, failed jobs, and failure is something that you should run after. And I know that sounds crazy, but there are so many people that are successful that talk about how they have failed and how many times they have failed and prevailed at the end of the day because they worked through those failures. So I really kind of wanted to share that with y'all, but as well as with myself, because I have been doing a lot of reflection on my 20s, and I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I thought by the age of 24, 25, I was gonna be married with kids. I was in a long-term relationship for at least 4 years, and I known this person for 5 years to turn out that they were never themselves. But I realized that failed relationship needed to happen for me to come to terms to who I truly am. One, I realized that relationship opened up so many doors for me, as well as closed many doors that needed to be closed. But it made me realize I was actually not ever really attracted to men the way that I thought I was. And the biggest icing on the cake for myself is I realized that I'm more attracted to women than I am men. And the only reason to why I was attracted to this guy was because he had very feminine eyes and he did have a balance between feminine and masculine energy, but it also made me realize he was mirroring me throughout the whole relationship. Well, 3 years into the relationship, because by the 4th year, he started becoming his true self. And one of the biggest things that I'm going to share with you goddesses that I learned to never do again in a relationship was to put his demons to sleep. I put his demons to sleep. He didn't put his demons to sleep. And I realized when I needed to start healing myself after my father had died, y'all, my father died. 6 months after my father passing, this guy decides to wake up one day with the coldest glare in his eyes. He had told me, I don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. Now, I'm gonna sit here and tell y'all would probably expect me to be kind of like sad about it and whatever. We were already going through it, and I was like, okay. I did not fight with him. I did not argue with him. I was so done with the relationship at that point in time. I was like, okay. And after that, as time went on, it was really awkward living with him, but during that time of us living with each other and I needed to save money in order to move into my own apartment, which it was a beautiful apartment and I was so happy to have found that apartment. During that time when we were living together, I remember telling him, I was like, listen, I understand that you want to be in a relationship for whatever fucking reason because we're just living together. I don't want to be with you and I don't want to pretend. So I broke up with the guy while we were living in his apartment. I said his. It was never, I never felt like it was home to me. Like I understand that I was living with this person, but I never felt like it was my home. And I remember trying to find a 1-bedroom apartment, and even that in itself was like pulling teeth with the guy. Like, I'm like, let's just go look at apartments. He's like, no. And then when we did go look at apartments, then he admitted to me that he never wanted to move. So it was very clear to me before we broke up, before we were going downhill, this was kind of like, I think my dad was still alive during this period, so it wasn't bad. But when he had made it clear to me that he didn't want to move, he wanted to be stagnant, and it was already turning me off from this person. But again, when you're in your 20s and you're so madly in love with someone and it's your first time being in love, you just kind of like, one of the worst things that you do when you're in love, and I really want my goddesses that are in their early mid-20s, please hear me when I say this. Your first serious relationship is not going to last. And my thing is, if it's meant to fucking be, y'all will go your separate ways, live your life, and come back around if it's meant to be. Please go live your life. And the reason I say that is because there's so many things that I did during this relationship where I wish I can go back in time, but I cannot. So I accept what it is. But I now look back at it and I laugh at myself hysterically because I was like, oh my God, I was that girl. And I hated that for me, you know, but I had to experience that to know that I would never do certain things again. There are a lot of positives that I can say about me in this relationship, not necessarily them, but I can say with this person that because of the shit that I didn't deal with, that he tried in the beginning, and he realized, oh, she's an actual healed person. She didn't come from troubled beginnings. She didn't come from a troubled home. I actually need to pull up my bootstraps and actually stop playing with this girl. And that's exactly what happened. So the 3 years in our relationship, I wouldn't say he was perfect. He was perfect for me, but I realized that he was pretending to be something that he wasn't because he was literally mirroring me. He was literally reflecting who I was as a person back onto me. And I genuinely believe he wanted to be a good person, but he felt that he couldn't be a good person because of whatever, you know, his trauma is. And I'm not diving into that. When it comes to your 20s and your relationships, you're supposed to fail. You're supposed to go into really understanding yourself. And like I said, I don't regret that relationship, but I learned so much from it. As well as when it comes to your career, when I sit here and tell y'all, like, my 20s was such an interesting time. When I say it was up in success, it was up in success. So prime example, when I was in college, I graduated college in May of 2017. April of 2017, before graduating, I was like applying to all these different places. I was studying to be a visual effects artist, and that's what I wanted to do in the industry. So I literally applied to MPC, and it was out in Vancouver, and they had it wasn't a program, it was like an internship, but it wasn't necessarily an internship. It was like your first step of like being like a basic VFX artist, but they train you and then you can start working on movies and stuff. I applied and I got a Skype interview with these two guys. I cannot remember their names, but I did a Skype interview with these two guys, and I'm not gonna sit here and lie, you guys. I already had plans of moving to Los Angeles. I was just applying on a whim. I wasn't thinking anything about it. So when I had the Skype interview with this company, I was still not thinking anything of it that I had got the job. But afterwards, I had done the interview and I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. I don't think I'm gonna get it. I actually got the job, guys. I would have got paid $30K, now Canadian dollars, but I would have got paid $30K right out the door, like, of college. I think I would have started in June, and I didn't take it. And I remember during this time, it was a very interesting period of my life. And there's so many stories that come with this, but I'm so happy I didn't choose that. I'm so happy I did not move to Vancouver, Canada, because I know for a fact that I would have quit that job and moved back home. Why? When I moved out to Los Angeles in May of 2017, June of 2017, my father got sick and he went into a coma for like 4 weeks. My father was in the hospital for a year. If I would have went to Vancouver, Canada, out there by myself, not knowing anybody, and my father was going through this, I know for a fact I wouldn't be mentally able to take care of myself and be able to be out there alone, because I would know nobody. I literally would lose my mind. Then I would have just went back home. I know for a fact that would have happened. So the fact that I made this decision to completely throw that out the way, my mom was mad, some of my family members were mad, but I didn't care. I didn't, because it was my life. And the one thing that I will never forget my father during that time, my father was just like, it's her life. He was like, hey, if she made that choice and decision, my father was with it. And that was one of the things about my dad. He was very much like, hey, we giving all the tools to our kids. It is what it is. My mom was upset because she's like, why? But at the same time, she was like, it is her life. And that was the thing about my parents. My mom was always that person, I feel like, that has like that very 50-50 level head. But then it's like, what? It's still your life. And I can't stop you from doing whatever you want to do. And with that being said, I did have the beauty of having this person that I had been with for a while to support me through this journey of my dad being sick. He was there for me. Now, the interesting part about this is I did tell him when my father did get really, really sick, I made it very, very clear to him. I was like, if you want to break up with me, break up with me. I'm not going to be upset. That whole situation in itself, this guy was so fucked up in the head where he believed that I was just making that up. He believed that he would have looked like been the bad guy, if he didn't break up with me. But in reality, you break up with me 6 months after my dad died. The math ain't mathin'. But anyway, like someone can be like, well, why didn't you just break up with him? Well, the reason that I didn't do that is because I kind of felt like this person knew me enough to be like, okay, if that's what she wants, I'm down for it. If she wants to break up, whatever. And that's what I was really expecting from this person. So it was my fault, and I had to learn from this situation to have expectations about what someone is going to say or what they're going to do. You can't do in a relationship. So I had to learn from that. I really was hoping and expecting that person to know me well enough to know to break up with me, because I need to focus on myself. I feel like it would be best for me to move into my own place in my own apartment and us to just kind of see each other, blah, blah, blah. But he was like, no, I'm going to be with you during this time. And for this situation, I'm not mad at him, obviously, because it was what I needed. That's why it happened that way. But at the same time, it was still really wild to me that this person was like, later on, as we're like arguing and talking and whatever, he was like, if I would have did that, I would have been the bad guy. You would have used that against me. And one, I want to make this very clear. When you are dealing with someone that is a narcissist, but overall, people tell on themselves. I know for a fact that that's probably what he would have did. He was projecting, and this person projected a lot. They were very unhealed. So one of the things that I've learned, the things that this person would say, and even other people in life that I've met, when they say specific things and you are not a trauma-filled person, they lie to themselves in their mind, and they think the way that they think, everyone else thinks the same way. So I want to make that very clear. I don't know why he would think that, because that wasn't who I was. And even if they did think I was that way, it was never that way. Why the fuck would I be saying this? But that's irrelevant. And the funny part about this story as well, with the moving to Vancouver or not moving to Vancouver but getting the job, there was a girl that he was friends with, and she came to LA to stay with us in our studio apartment for like a week. And I will never forget, one, when I met the girl virtually, she was cool. But when I met her in person and I saw who she was, I did not like this girl. And I remember him telling me after she had left, it was weird when she was there, and he started to realize, actually, she's not cool people's. I'm not going to talk to her anymore. I just remember that he had told her about the job that I got in Vancouver. And apparently this girl had said, it's hilarious to me. It really is fucking funny how this girl was like, oh, she's not mature enough, or she makes bad decisions. I'm sorry. It's so funny. I can't even say it with a straight face, because it was the funniest shit I ever heard. Me making bad decisions? Okay. So anyway, I thought that was so funny, and me and this person laughed about it. Breaking up with this person, moving into my own place. I lost my, post-production job, which I was doing post-production for 4 years in Los Angeles, working at 2 like visual effects studios and stuff like that. When I lost my job, y'all, Instagram became a thing. I was starting to do, you know, pole dance and post my stuff on Instagram, and growing so fast. And from there, I did my first music video, which I said I was going to do, and I did it with an artist that I love, which was Corey LeRae. Then I do my first live performance after 11 months of starting pole. That's unheard of. Then a year and I want to say 3 months, maybe a year and a half, I go on tour with the artist that I listened to in college. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I made the right decision for myself. And one of the biggest things going through what I've learned and noticed through my 20s is this person was very like military based, like she came from the military. And one of the biggest things that I'm going to sit here and say is she chose that reality because there was nothing else that she felt that she can do. She wanted security. I'm not a security type bitch. I'm going to go after my dreams because that's more important to me than having security. And I can do that. I don't have any kids. Now, this girl didn't have kids either, but the fact that she was the type of person to look down on somebody because they're going after something that they know works for them, and you are the type of person that you literally have no perseverance, you have nothing in, like, no passion for anything, but you know doing this, going into the military, you're gonna be set for life. Good for you, but I know it's boring as hell. And I could never be that person. I could never be them. So I laughed at it, and I was never offended by this person at all. And one of the biggest things that I have learned through my 20s, and I think this is very true, I had a lot of fight in me in my 20s. And I realize now that I'm going into my 30s, I still have fight in me, but I really very much have learned that I have to pick and choose my battles. There are going to be a lot of things that I just don't have the energy to like really fight for or just make someone believe my perspective. I don't care. I just know now at the age of 29, if you don't get it, I'm not even going to try to make you get it. I don't care enough. And that even includes my family. I have learned that you cannot help someone that doesn't want to be helped. You cannot sit here and tell someone about something that they just don't care because they're going to believe whatever their fucking beliefs are. I don't give a damn. I think that's one of the biggest things that I have coming towards the ends of my 20s. And again, when it comes to your 20s, fail in your 20s. You are supposed to fail in your 20s. You are supposed to go through these relationships, learning from them. And the biggest thing that I'm going to end this with is saying, again, if you are in a relationship and you are in your early to mid 20s, you have been in a 2-year relationship, this person hasn't put a ring on your finger, they're speaking sweet nothings to you, but there's no actions behind it, break up with this person and go live your life. I'm saying that because these boys nowadays that pretend to be men, baby, go live your life. Go live your life in your 20s. If it is meant to be, y'all will come around. In my situation, that shit is a dud, and I do not wish the best for that person if they are not healed. If they went to therapy, if they are trying each and every day to better themselves, then I wish them the best. Other than that, they can go to fucking hell. But with that being said, I love you goddesses. I love you goddesses, and I really hope this video was, I don't know, inspiring, helpful. You know what I'm saying? If you're in your mid 20s, early 20s, or coming towards the end of your 20s, yeah. And especially to you, pole goddess, speaking to myself, let's see if all this resonates when we hit our 30s. Like, make another one next year. Love you. Bye.